Hello! In this video I will be reviewing Steelheart, the first book in Brandon Sanderson's Reckoning series. And the spoiler-free review is that this book is good. This book is really, really good. It kind of pops off the entire way, like fast-paced action, interesting action, cool main characters, cool supporting cast of characters, kind of like a cool team put together, insanely cool world building and like villains and all this sort of stuff. And the villains, I suppose, are kind of part of world building in this way. And it really just kind of comes together and pops off the page and keeps you engaged, keeps you interested. And it's just really, really strong. And it ends with a bang as well. It ends with a couple of questions being asked, a little bit of confusion. But basically, we kind of get the main... It's quite good, actually, because it gives us the main resolution to our main plot line, as you would hope, right? But it also kind of... There's a couple of little things that are unresolved, which is good because it makes you excited for a sequel, which I've just started. So, yeah, spoiler-free review. Really strong main character, interesting. He's kind of got funny stuff going on in his head. He's got this thing where he's bad with metaphors. It's just like a little thing to make him feel a bit more real and a bit more nuanced. So fun main character, fun supporting cast, great world, great villains. Pick it up, read it. Great. So that's the spoiler-free review. Getting into spoilers, I think that this book really shines in that it doesn't pull any of its punches. And I was expecting this because... And I'll explain what I mean by that, because it's kind of a nebulous phrase. But, you know, you kind of expect young adult to kind of be a little bit more kind of circumspect with violence, like very kind of, you know, maybe have some preachy message about how revenge is bad or whatever and all these sort of things. But this book just does not give a fuck. Like, it starts off with basically his dad getting brutally murdered in front of him by this by this superhero, basically, Steelheart, who turns out to be evil, shock, shock. His dad gets brutally murdered in front of him. It's like an insanely gruesome, basically, action scene at the start where, you know, where basically, like, horrible things happen. Like, this woman, like, this guy's vaporizing people, and this woman's baby gets vaporized in her arms, and she's, like, holding the bones, and it's really fucked, you know what I mean? Like, you really start this book, and you're like, Jesus, okay. So this is what's happening, and I think that that's a great call from Brandon Sanderson in the sense that, basically, at the start, he tells you what this book's going to be. He tells you it's going to be fast-paced, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be action, but it's not going to be... You know, it's going to be, like, hardcore. You better be ready for shit like this to happen, you know? And so in that first page, you kind of know what's happening. And it's good as well, because I was expecting something else. I was expecting kind of young adult, you know, very, like, Percy Jackson kind of things, where there's a little bit of violence, but not really. And the only things that get killed are really just kind of monsters anyway, so you don't really care, you know, for them. And it's very, like, morally safe and easy. And, you know, no, that's not the case of this book at all. And we get, like, told that in the very first scene, you know, where his dad dies. And then basically, I think that this book really shines in the sense that we have our, you know, so we see our big bad villain at the start, Steelheart, and then basically the entire book is them just trying to figure out how to kill this guy and then killing him at the end. Shock, shock, shock. But he's not really in it until the end, you know what I mean? So he's basically this amazing faceless villain who we just, like, he does the kind of bad stuff, we hear about the bad stuff he's done, and then we're just kind of with our characters plotting how to kill him. And I really feel like this book comes off almost like a heist movie, you know, where we've got like our team of kind of people that goes from different specialities, and they've come together and they've each got kind of their quirky personalities as well, and they come together and they to do this goal, right? And in a heist movie it would be, you know, to steal something or whatever, but in this case it's to kill someone, right? To kill this like impossible to kill superhero. But the point being that it just works really well in that way. We've got this team set up to do something, and I think it really comes to a head at the end when we see our team, this amazing team setting up to do it, right? And so we see the different preparations they take and the things they think through, and it's very satisfying, you know, just to see them do that. And so yeah, I really like the kind of a team dynamic aspect of this, and that leads into what I was going to say is that the characters are all cool. They all kind of have their own little kind of personalities. So I have my main character David, whose head we're in. You know, he has these like funny bad metaphors, and he's very, very fast-paced thinker. He gets a bit confused by girls, and he just feels like a very real kind of late teenager guy, right? And I can relate to that because I'm only a couple of years removed from that. So he really works, and our supporting cast of characters are all kind of their unique personality quirks. Like one guy's kind of French, he's like Quebec French, and he's kind of got his background, and then another guy is like he's like Scottish American, and he's like really, you know, going off about his Scottish ancestry and just talking a whole bunch of shit, and it's very funny. And then we've got our like kind of techie person who drinks a bunch of Coke, and you know, you might think, drinks a bunch of Coke, that's not a great personality detail, but it really is. It just kind of brings them to life, you know. We've got this little thing about them. Then we got like the main professor guy, who's actually turns out to be an epic, turns out to be a superhero in of himself, and that's really interesting. And then we've got, I would say, the one very, very small miss in terms of the characters is that our David and this I forget her name, the hot chick. It's just a problem. Basically, her personality is that she's hot. She's hot and she's abrasive. And I think that's a slight miss in terms of writing. And I think that in general, female, it's good for anyone, but particularly for female characters, particularly given how they're, you know, woman characters, given how they've been represented in media in the past. It's good to make them have personality, a bit more personality aside from being just attractive, and perhaps it's good to make them attractive to, you know, so someone's going to be attracted to them. I think it's perhaps good to make them attractive apart from being physically attractive. So that's just like a quick thing throwing in there. But I mean, it's a very small flaw in a great scheme of the book. Then I think it's important to quickly touch on setting. It's very, very interesting. So basically we have, you know, 10 years ago in the book's timeline, you know, these kind of epics, these superheroes came and they're all evil and they kind of basically screwed up the entire world. And it's really interesting kind of seeing how Brandon Sanderson describes this, which is that the government originally tried to enforce laws on these people as you would, right? But they basically realized that eventually they just couldn't, so they passed this act saying, we're not going to enforce laws on them. But of course, that kind of just led to society just falling apart, because if you can't enforce the laws on people, they can do whatever they want, they're just going to do what they want. So, you know, Steelheart, for example, comes and takes over Chicago and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So that's kind of like the political kind of setting, like, you know, so the states have kind of fallen apart. They're called the fractured states, which is kind of cool. You know, different cities are run by kind of different epics, and then specifically we're in New Cargo, which is run by Steelheart. And so, but then the physical setting is really interesting as well, because basically Steelheart turned the entire city of everything that's not living into steel, right? So the ground is all steel, you know, they're tunneling through steel, the buildings are all steel. Like they talk various times about how things that should be see-through, like glass, like the back of a stadium, are steel, you know, so it feels really trapped in. And I think that's a really cool kind of idea where it really brings the setting to life. So it's not just Chicago, it's Chicago, everything was turned to steel, you know, which is a really interesting kind of idea. He doesn't forget about this either. It's not like he brings it up once and then you kind of forget about it. You're constantly reminded that the things are not how they should look because they're all made of metal. And the other thing as well is there's this one epic, this one superhero in the place who makes everything dark, like he makes it nighttime always. So you really imagine this kind of grungy looking city, everything's metal and nothing's like vibrant or anything, and it's dark, and you really get this vibe. And then it helps at the end where you get this very physical representation that they've won, because the epic that makes everything dark, he dies, and so you get this literal sunrise. You know, it's a little bit unsubtle metaphor, you know, a sunrise after, you know, the night or whatever, but it works really well. And then I think overall the plot of this book is basically just a generic revenge story where, you know, guy's dad gets killed, he, along with his team, he finds, goes after this epic who did it with Steelheart and kills him. But, you know, we get a little bit of moral questioning about, you know, whether this is a good thing or not, you know, because the thing, I mean, it's interesting when you think about just killing a dictator in general, right? You're like, oh, maybe we should just kill Kim Jong-un, but then you've got to think about how that would affect the people in the country itself, right? So we get a little bit of that kind of questioning, and I think that works, and I think it's relevant to bring that up. But what I like as well is this book didn't end with, like, generic platitudes about how revenge is bad or how killing is bad or whatever, because ultimately, that's not what I sign up for. When I read a revenge story, I want to see somebody get their revenge. Like, for example, I was very frustrated watching The Boys, where he spends all his time wanting to kill A-Train for killing his girlfriend, and then he finally gets the opportunity, and you're like, okay, so this is what this guy's character is about. I mean, he's spent so many resources doing this, and he gets the opportunity, he just doesn't. Whereas at the end of this book, they get the opportunity, and you know, David just monsters Steelheart, you know what I mean? I won't say how they kill him, because I think that's a very cool spoiler, but it's just very, very well done. So that's another thing I want to quickly touch on before I finish this review, is that the whole book is good, but the end of it, as Brandon Sanderson's good at this, the end is just really, really strong. And so, you know, very big, exciting set-piece action at the end that finishes with culminates with the death of Steelheart and the kind of, the saving of the city, so to speak. But yeah, really, really strong book. I really enjoyed this, and I just can't recommend it enough, because it's such a big contrast to what I thought it was going to be. You know, I thought it was going to be kind of like generic, kind of young adult, kind of meh. But it really, really... No, and to be fair, I mean, just want to quickly say, I don't mean to talk shit about young adults. Some of my favourite stories are actually young adult stories. But this one in particular just feels like it really doesn't pull any punches, doesn't pander, and is just really, really strong, fast. And that's one other thing, it's super fast-paced. Like, you will literally not want to put it down. I mean, I could imagine if you had the time, you would finish it in one sitting. You know what I mean? So yeah, really, really enjoyed this book. Can't recommend it enough. I'm interested to see where the sequels go, because it kind of killed the main villain, but, you know, probably going to be more villains, you know, very easy when there's lots of superheroes. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.